Good day to you all and welcome to the program. Our strength on Press R is the force of argument. And without suppressing our emotions will let our good sense lead us and our ideas. About a week to the reopening of the 2020-2021 school year, we have a special context. We have COVID-19 still very much with us. We have problems. The crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions are still very much around. But we also have within the school milieu violence and drugs. We have what some have termed trading admissions in school. We have so many stakes to talk about at a time. Schools are opening for a new year. Then we also have a topic listening to official and unofficial voices in Cameroon. It is established that there are attempts to destabilize the country. Is the international community helping or engineering the situation? We are going to look at these two topics, and we announced earlier on that they were actually going to be exciting. So hold your breath and be with us. Our panel, we have to my right, Charles Ibuni. Charles Ibuni is a journalist. He knows so much about international relations. As a journalist, he knows so many other things. Charles, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Killian.
Next to you, Charles, we have Mr. Keyaka Edward. Is the principal of a school, Anglo-Saxon school, but based in Yaoundé. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Charles.
Killian,
excuse me.
Thank you very much. And next to me is an expert in international relations, Paul Yombo. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we have one person who is so used to Press R, and you are also used to him. Franklin Sonebayen, welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are going to examine the two issues that we just introduced. But before we do that, our pace setter on Press R is the press review. Press review, our regular person, our lady on the beat is Emanuela Vebnui. Emanuela?
Newspapers were at it again this week, feeding their audience with news events around Cameroon and abroad. The Guardian Post headlines, government unleashes arsenal against MRC protest. Then questions, will Camto dare? To the Post, armored cars, water cannons to confront demonstrators, even as Cameroon Tribune says no to illegal protest and insists order must prevail. The Horizon sees planned Camto protest in doubt. And indeed, Camto failed again on municipal updates, then receives a heavy mockery sigh on Cameroon Tribune. Just when Cameroon insider mocks at the tsunami that never was, MRC supporters defy heavy security presence in Douala, Chang and Bafang and march on the Guardian Post. But Camto's plot to destabilize Cameroon receives nationwide backlash on the Chronicle Times. The Horizon then presents how Biya regime missed an opportunity offered by the Camto planned protest to score political points. To the Crown, Cameroonians say Camto stepped back from the precipice. Then the Guardian Post wants to know what's next after September 22nd, especially as MRC says many missing after protests. Blood spills again in Northwest and Southwest regions on the Horizon and gets the Post to weaken the questioning, are lives of Anglophones in Cameroon worthless? The paper reports that 10 persons slaughtered in cold blood in 2 days. Just when Bar Council indicts military for rights violation on Operation Bamenda Clean on the Guardian Post, women's group give government separatists 30-day ultimatum for ceasefire. The advocate wants nothing but peace. The same peace PCC moderator crusade for on the Star newspaper. As the Rambler invites, come forth, Biya, let Cameroonians feel you. The Sun newspaper on the road to December 6 wants to know who is in and who is out. To the Median, regional investitures, more casualties and frustrations in Southwest. Cameroon Tribune then presents the figures that speak for themselves. SDF strips Famdongo naked over scornful derogatory comments on the post-weekender. To the Guardian Post, SDF gives Famdongo dressing down over derogatory remarks on the party. Just when election of mayors cancelled in Kumba and Makenene, on Cameroon Tribune as Supreme Court orders rerun of elections on the Guardian Post. Boya is then on health alert after cholera outbreak on the Guardian Post. As anxiety grips Boya population over cholera outbreak on the Post newspaper, government is for effective COVID-19 free start of school year on Cameroon Tribune, with Prime Minister instructing compliance with safety measures, then warns that barrier measures negligence can lead to upsurge on the Sun newspaper. Face masks then drop for handshakes, hugs, and COVID-19 on the Rambla. Let's now end our press review with a story on the Guardian Post where over 7 million CFA franc fake banknotes are in circulation in Yaoundé. The currencies injected by a suspected gang of traffickers into circulation, according to the confession of 2 members of the gang currently in the dragnet of elements of the National Gendarmerie in Longkak, was brought in from Nigeria through a cock in Manu Division. During their arrest, they were in possession of 5,000 francs fake banknotes amounting to 3 million CFA francs. If you are in Yaoundé, then watch out for what you receive as banknotes. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much. Thank you enormously, Emanuela Vemni. Ladies and gentlemen, you have noticed that there was so much in politics for the newspapers to feed on, and there was also much in preparations for back to school, which is our first topic to be discussed here on the panel. And we told you earlier, as you also heard in the press review, it is within a special context. COVID-19 context, we still have war going on in the northwest and southwest regions. We'll begin with you. You are an educationist, principal in a school. How are you preparing for back to school, generally speaking, 2020, 2021?
Thank you very much. We are preparing with a lot of enthusiasm to begin the academic year 2020-2021 with admissions of new students and the registration of old ones. With the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic, education being the life wire that disseminates culture and the world's people's aspiration, this COVID background gives us room to prepare following the ministerial decision of cutting down the class size, preparing barrier measures like putting in place sanitizers, wash hand basins, and with running water and soap, and disinfecting the campus that students have been away for more than 6 months. Mm-hmm. So we need to disinfect the campuses and get ready for the general opening resumption of schools.
Thank you. You must have heard that what Mr. Keyaka Edward is saying is not peculiar to his school. It is what is happening in all schools across the country, because the pandemic, COVID-19, is a general thing. It affects the whole country. Charles, before we go into some of those things, how to prepare for COVID, as he's saying, because it's something. How do you see this school year starting, from a general perspective, in 1 week's time?
Well, I think it is school year within a very particular context. First of all, let us talk about the enrollment context. We are going to have roughly 11 million learners, about 6 million in the basic education sector. We are going to have about 4 million in the secondary education sector, about 1 million in the higher education sector. It is a school year and an academic year which will be taking place within the framework of multiplied crises. The Boko Haram insurgency is not over in the far north region. We should always remember that. The sanitary crisis because of COVID-19 imposes new regulations that teachers that he is will be pressured. We have the debacle in the Northwest and Southwest. We are running almost 4 years of some doubtful, effective schools in the Northwest and Southwest. And then there is another battle we have to fight, the social media battle of what is happening, whether this is Cameroon or not Cameroon. So there are times that a school will be going on maybe in the Northwest and somebody is bringing pictures of 2016 and saying that schools are not. So there are multiple challenges within that context.
Thank you. That is very insightful, Charles. To you, Paul Yombo, how do you see this school year within the context the two first speakers have situated? Looking at it, what could we do to make it hitch-free or to limit the stakes?
Thank you very much. Well, to go a bit further back, before the beginning of the Northwest-Southwest crisis and before the sanitary crisis of COVID-19, the education system in Africa, in Cameroon in particular, already had a certain number of structural challenges that it has to face. The problem of infrastructure and the problem of the teachers. The student-teacher ratio is way too high as compared to what UNESCO suggests or what UNESCO proposes as a norm to educational systems. So this structural issue has only been accentuated with the security issues and with the health crisis that is going on right now. But at the same time, it has accentuated these problems. It also offers pathways for innovative and creative solutions thanks to the social media that Charles Ebune has referred to, thanks to numerical digital solutions that can help multiply the centers for education and help reduce a certain number of issues and pressure on the teaching staff. So it's an ambivalent context which is marked by serious challenges, serious difficulties, but at the same time, opportunities for innovation and for positive change.
Thank you very much. Franklin Bayen, when I called you, you were in Limbe. I should tell our viewers that you have left Limbe, come to Yaoundé just for this program. You are on the ground. I don't want to use words that others use. You are on the ground zero. What's the situation? That should be a situational kind of report that you can give us about what's happening.
This in relation to
back to school, back to school, and the situation in the
health crisis or the socio-political crisis.
The atmosphere.
Okay. When I leave Yaoundé, when I'm in Yaoundé, I see relative response to the health crisis. I see a relative, and I say relative because I see something else down out there. Generally, people have given up or not taking the health crisis seriously anymore. The barrier measures have nearly all ground to zero. But even so, when I go down to the southwest, it's like COVID never happened, because there's very little that shows that people are concerned about it. The barrier measures are not there, and people don't see their neighbors dying in droves, so they don't believe that the crisis exists. Number two, sometime in August, there was an attempt by schools to organize holiday classes, and the ministries of education said, no way, you can't have holiday classes, and I think the reasons advanced had to do with COVID-19.
Exactly.
When I go to Boya, I see at least one school. I say at least one school because I couldn't check all the rest, but I see at least one school having holiday classes. So I'm asking myself, are we in the same country? Are we facing the same health crisis? Are the risks the same for everyone? Are the measures the same for everyone? And I do not know. But now, talking about the socio-political crisis, I used to hear that Limbe, for example, was an island.
Spared somehow.
Yes, no, Limbe is affected. Monday ghost towns are effective in Limbe, increasingly into the hinterlands, where you thought maybe it was a city center, downtown, that first felt it when it got to Limbe, because it wasn't there at the beginning. And you thought that the back streets or the hinterlands of Limbe were not affected, but right into the hinterlands, Even women who sell food in places as far away as Limbola don't sell on ghost
Now,
towns.
yes. Now, let me just ask, we're fading out from that. That's not our concern today. Let me just ask you this question. You are from there. The respect for ghost towns, according to you and according to your analysis, is it for fear of being harmed, or it is a complicity with those who are actually calling it?
You mean, is it the population
afraid that if you
coming out in staying home in protest, or are they afraid of the unknown?
Yes.
You have to conduct a survey to
Thank
find
you.
the answer.
Thank you very much. We'll come back to you. You are the expert in this topic in terms of back to school. Let us take, first of all, the first point, COVID-19. One thing Charles raised also is that you will be having, should be 3 shifts. We're talking about limiting the number of students who attend a classroom session. 3 shifts. How will you manage this to start? You have a challenge there. 50 students. And you have schools that have about 700, 1,000.
Generally, the atmosphere is really a complex one, given that we've restricted the number of students per class, but the infrastructure is not there. And if we restrict the number and put them in streams, the difficulty would be carrying the same lesson for different streams at different times, and obviously the flow would not obviously be the same. More to that, if we carry one stream and then the next class comes in shift, how do we disinfect the class before the next shift comes in?
Now, those are 2 problems you have raised. What are proposed solutions to those problems? Because the problems are real, and we are going back to school in 1 week. So what could be the remedy?
We cannot increase the class size. We cannot go into construction now to build more classrooms. But I think that the disinfection of the classrooms at the backdrop of the COVID could be plausible, and enough conscientization of respecting the measures to cope with the COVID-19 could be emphasized. And it's really a difficult situation, but I know that if we put our hands together, put all forces together, we can surmount those difficulties with enough conscientization and remuneration for those who will be involved in it, because they will have multiple repeated duties to carry out with the less manpower that is unsafe.
Yes, Charles, you certainly have a proposal for a solution.
I just wish to say that 3 of our key educational ministries are headed by world-class university dons, 3 professors. Nalova Leonga for secondary education, Laurent Sesh Etundingwa for basic education, and Famendongo for higher education. And I presume, I understand that they have taken into consideration one basic element in education, quality, because of the innovations they have brought in. Because the human brain is not 100% keeping all what it says. Imagine somebody who has to teach history, for example, and we are in an upper 6th class of 100 students. And, for example, let me just take a lesson, the causes of World War I. You will notice that he will teach 50 students, first of all. There are certain things he's going to say in that class. And when the other class comes in, he or she will realize that there are certain things he didn't mention, and he's going to say that. And by the time you come in for a 3rd round of teaching, you will realize that there are certain things you have improved in saying.
Well, so, I think that could be handled, Charles. That could be handled.
That will be handled.
See how that could be handled.
That will be handled. But let's look at the solutions that they are providing.
That's what I want you to talk about.
I think that the digital platform, whose experience has been proven well during the COVID short-term examination period, could be multiplied so that all the students have the same teaching experience at the same time. Second, I believe that the media should come in, especially our radio and television stations. I think
the print media equally.
The print media equally.
And a good use of social media.
Absolutely. But let me hang on TV and radio, especially radio and community radios, which have a wide audience across the chessboard, be it in English and French. For them, for the purpose of public service, to sacrifice some of their airwaves and provide an opportunity for lectures to be increased based on what we saw. Because let me just add.
Thank you. We had that on CRTV this last time, running up to the end of the 2019-2020 school year.
Yeah.
So, as you say, they should improve on that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you once again, Mr. Keyaka. Students have been out, except for those examination class students who had special sessions, sometimes distance learning sessions. The majority of the students, except for those, you talked of 6 months or even more, out of school. How are you going to make sure that they catch up with the kind of vacuum that must have been created on their minds?
I think this could be bridged up if we teach them right up to Saturdays, because the normal school day runs from Monday to Friday. But if we put in now some hours on Saturday to catch up the work that they've lost for the past year, and also extend the school hours, not ending at 2, for those classes that don't have the shift.
Will that not come in with what we've grown up to know, that learning without play makes Jack a dull boy? Too much.
Special circumstances would permit us to bridge the gap and catch up what has been lost.
Yes, now we have this other problem in schools. We're going to, yes,
can I just say something to his idea of extending to Saturdays?
Yes.
I think that a lot of measures we take are more nominal than functional. When they said examination classes, I mean the last academic year, should go back to school, I saw, for most of the time, I saw the students loitering around. There was very little effective studies. We expected that for the time lost, studies would be even more intensive, but that was not the case. We saw kids loitering. Back in the northwest and southwest regions, in the Anglophone regions, where students had lost a lot of time because of the war, and they said there should be catch-up classes up till Saturday. Most Saturdays, students were seen loitering around. I do not know whether it's the school authorities who are saturated. I don't know whether it's the students who dodge, or because, as I say, we do things more nominally than functionally. We just say, okay, let's go to school on Saturday, but the teachers don't even come, or the school authorities don't follow up that the classes are taking place effectively. I wonder why that happens, but this is my observation, that the Saturday classes will not help. If you can't use up, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. As long as it will not be effective, there is no point. Coming back to Killian, you deny the kids their free Saturday, take them to school, and they don't do any effective work. It becomes a window for some of them to go out to do other things that can bring social repercussions. But I think that we are too, in this country, maybe we are too inclined to nominal things than in functional things. In the northwest and southwest regions, I didn't see effective school for the final year students because in the effort to catch up from the effects of the war. In the case of COVID around the country, when the final year students went to school, I didn't see effective studies. It was just very, very nominal.
Now, we have this blackout, but our program is going on. We have this problem of accommodating these, especially the small kids. I know yours are not small kids, but when students come together, they are always kids in secondary school. What you talked about the measures. We want to know exactly how, given that you have a school, we are taking yours as an example. Yes. What actually are you putting in place to make sure that COVID-19 and violence in school, drugs, we don't have that?
Mr. Killian, there's one thing I would say. There is a difference between a boarding school and a public school. For a boarding school, we can easily curb the students, given that when they come into the campus, they are checked and they stay only within the campus and are controlled regularly. With my school, per se, all the students are boarders. The day the parents bring them, we screen them at the entrance, we check for temperature and other things. They have wash hand basins and running water and soap. They wash their hands and their dormitories are disinfected. They stay within that closure, and I think we can easily bar the way for COVID-19.
Yes, Charles,
just an idea of the Saturday school. If I were a parent, it is not an idea I would buy, because a majority of our parents are from, or our students are from poor backgrounds, and you wear a uniform from Monday to Friday. You need to watch it, and we need to take into consideration the sanitary situation in which we are found. And you can't go to school from Monday to Friday and you add Saturday, you left just with Sunday. I don't know when you are going to watch your uniform to wear it on Monday. I'm saying it because I came from one of the nation's most poorest families, so I know what I'm talking about.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, what I'd like to say is that in these debates, there is no perfect solution. What we're trying to do is optimize in a situation of constraints.
Exactly.
There are multiple constraints.
Exactly.
First constraint is the health crisis that we have now.
Yes.
We need to apply social distances. We need to apply barrier measures to curb down the slope of the health crisis. That's the first point. Second point is the health, the security situation, and the third point is the limited infrastructure and limited number of teachers. So there's no perfect solution. The problem is to optimize, and bearing that in mind, the idea of Saturday isn't such a bad idea.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Now, we're going to phase out of this topic, but you know, the crisis in Northwest Southwest is part of the problem when this school year, academic year subsequently start. We know so many of them left that way, what we used to know as Anglo-Saxon education. Yours is a school known to be. Can we still have those standards here? Are they not diluted in Yaoundé? Given that we know that the way it used to happen in the, it happens because we still have schools going on in Northwest and Southwest.
Yes. Can I talk about my schools precisely?
Your school is just an example.
Oh, yes, I'll use as an example. The Anglo-Saxon values of education shows that we must bring up children to be self-confident, honest, faithful, disciplined, and truthful. And when those norms are put in place, no matter where the student comes from, we follow those norms, we will create better citizens for the country.
So you have to be very strict?
Very strict, following the Anglo-Saxon principles. As Captain Cotran puts it, there are 9 basic values that are inculcated in the children, in the students, as Anglo-Saxon background.
Can we have some of them?
We have self-confidence, courage, truthfulness, honesty, discipline, industriousness,
critical reasoning.
Okay, thank you. We have all of that. Thank you very much. We're going to move into our next topic, which is topical. Newspapers talk mostly about the fact that officially and unofficially there are attempts to destabilize Cameroon. And we have grown up being frightened just when we hear that the international community is condemning something. But with what has been happening in Cameroon, Charles Ibuni talked of the Boko Haram insurgency in the far north, in sub-Saharan Africa, many countries, Cameroon included. Now we have several areas of human rights violation. We have the crisis in Northwest and Southwest regions. We have the current issue at hand, which people call it a hot potato, the cause by MRC, CRM political party to destabilize the country. What is the role of the international community? That's what we're going to talk about. Hold your breath, you can't go away. But before we talk about that topic, watch this report by one of us, Ebenezer Akanga.
The security disposition that was put up to foil the insurrectional plan of Maurice Kamto and the MRC was one of a blend of intelligence and the presence of anti-route troops on road junctions and roundabouts in targeted towns and cities of the country for dissuasion. Though there was much provocation on the part of supporters of the MRC, the security forces handled what was a delicate situation with professionalism such that it did not degenerate.
It is clear that the Cameroonian population do not accept anymore to behavior like a population who do not have any role in this country.
The main goal is not only to protest against the electoral regulations, the electoral rules. It is not only to claim a peaceful resolution of the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions. It is clearly to obtain the departure of President Paul Biya. There are regulations in order to maintain security and stability when there is this type of threats of insurrection. Cameroon has several communities. If we have an open conflict in this country, it will be a chaos.
To the political class, using insurrection to get to power is totally unacceptable in modern-day democratic society.
This is primitive method. If you want to have the power, you have to pass through election. This is democracy.
It's completely crazy because you shouldn't be going to the palace through violence, through insurrection, through uprising.
CPDM does not like disorder. We like peace for our country.
If he doesn't want to go to election, nobody will come and tell him to go by force. But we, militants of CPDM and our allied parties, we will all go for this election.
NUDP party will participate in the regional elections.
The civil society does not only strongly condemn the diabolic plan, but it is mobilizing to make the plan fail.
We are in this meeting to say no to destabilization, no to insurrection.
Call on our fellow youth to stand aloof from all attempts at insurrection and the destabilization of our country.
Both the political class and civil society in Yaoundé therefore call on Cameroonians not to take part in an insurrection that would destabilize state institutions and plunge the country into chaos.
That report by Ebenezer Kanga was clear to us. I hope that it was also very clear to you. We have an expert in international relations with us, Paul Yombo. Focus on this topic is the role of the international community. What do we understand to start by international community?
Well,
because we have not seen it doing something that can change the crisis, the problems we've been going through. But each time you hear international community has condemned, we have not seen anything. What do we understand by international community?
The international community is a nebulous concept used to refer to a certain number of states geographically based in the western hemisphere of the planet. That's a large definition. But operationally, when we speak of the international community, it refers to people, that is actors, state actors, but also non-governmental actors, because there's an international civil society, international organizations that have a common ideology based on official discourse on human rights, freedom of speech, and liberal values. That's how you take it on face value. But when you look into the depth of how the international community, how that concept is used and thrown around left and right, you can understand that this first presentation of the international community is more of a facade. Because the central states and the central actors in the international community use human rights discourse variably. With one state, they will condemn violations of human rights, and with other worse violators, they won't use America understood that it couldn't stay in its unipolar world where the American states would intervene all around the planet. So there was a geopolitical shift from unipolarity to multipolarity with emerging states. And the weakness of the hegemon, because historically the weakest hegemon in the history of humanity is the American state compared to other former hegemons. So America needed allies to continue to impose its order on the global scene. And that is what led to what is known as the international community now, which was earlier called the free world. So it's a front, in fact, for global, liberal, and American interests.
So if we were to understand at the level of the common man,
yes,
the international community doesn't actually mean a force that people can count on.
The international community is a group of interests. That's how you should place it. When the international community has interest to act in a country, it will find an alibi. The alibi can be human rights discourse, or they can completely sideline human rights discourse and intervene directly. We have seen cases like that where they have fabricated proofs. Anthrax, which was shown by Colin Powell at the United Nations Security Council, fake anthrax to justify an intervention. So the alibi is human rights discourse. The reason is geopolitical interest.
Now, we also have this concept which goes side by side, international community, international society.
Yes, that's an academic debate, and the idea, to put it very simply, is that when you say society, it supposes that there's a certain number of rules. When you say African society, Western society, there are rules that characterize and define the society, and which makes you understand that, okay, here I'm moving from one society to another. So speaking of international society presupposes that in the international arena, there are a certain number of codes and rules that people have to follow. Whereas speaking of an international community, the accent is more on the idea that we have something in common, which is the international scene. And so those who talk of international community, they are more in an anarchical perspective, where there's no rules, where there are no rules.
Charles,
yes.
When do you hear of international community? From what he has explained, do you see the international community actually pulling the strings to fix problems? Taking the example of Cameroon, because we have had so many problems, and we have had condemnations of so many branches of international community.
It depends on which ideological bench you are sitting. But let me just use the FIFA metaphor. The FIFA is the largest gathering in the world, 211 members. In reality, that is the international community, plus about 35,000 non-governmental organizations which operate globally, plus 10 million national NGOs. But to be concrete, I'm a journalist. He's an expert. To speak to my mother in Manyemen, the international community is when London representing the UK, when Washington representing the United States, when Paris representing France have spoken, plus those who are their surrogate, those who support them. In an expression, they call them neocons, conservatives, people who don't want a certain order to change. And there is one element that binds them. Democracy. From that you can deduce human rights and whatsoever. So they believe that the world should be seen from their perspective. And coming to Cameroon, the moment you don't sit and watch things from that perspective, based on what they want to get, be it oil, be it regime change like it happened in Iraq in 2003, so no matter the number of people that secessionists will kill in the northwest and southwest, it is of no value to them because it doesn't serve a certain agenda. There is no human rights violation when my junior brothers, my sisters don't go to school in Babesi or Furawa. There is no problem. There is no problem insofar as Boko Haram executes children in the far north and deprives them from going to school. There is virtually no problem because there is a particular agenda which has been set. But the moment the military of the Biya administration in a Regalian or Republican principle, let me talk like Professor Elvis Ngole, attempts to maintain the territorial integrity of the nation against terrorist organizations, all reports are produced on planet Earth. And from there, you can quickly deduce what is at stake. Is it regime change? Do we want to change power? Do we want oil? Do we want cocoa? Do we want...
That's correct, Charles. Thank you. Are you just not implying, saying that what is happening here in Cameroon, because that's the focus?
Let me just take the MRC, the demonstration, the 22nd of...
And link it briefly with what you've said.
Let me just take the 22nd of September events. You realize that all those non-governmental organizations that described Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, that's how they pronounce it in Arabic, as a dictator, you must leave power. All those international organizations backed the position of those who called for a protest march, even though the laws of the land said if it is not approved, you don't take it. And they produced all kind of terrible images, plus the one of 22nd September 2017, which they published on their official Facebook. So from there, it is simple. You understand that this is where they are going.
Franklin Bain, you are reading.
What Yombo and Ebone have said. Well, nice to know that Ebone's mom lives in my village. We'll take good care of her. Manyamen is a very hospitable place. We're glad to host your mother. What the two of them have said is true. What is odd about what they're saying, linking to the question about destabilizing Cameroon, is giving the impression that there are some holy boys, some holy guys running the affairs in Cameroon, and some evil guys called international community are plotting to destroy them. So maybe a holy war is at stake. But these persons who are in power, President Paul Biya, his ministers, the government that's been in power since 1982, is a creation of the international community. We heard the president say...
They were elected by Cameroonians.
We heard the president say...
Frankly.
We heard the president, Paul Biya, say in the early 1990s, when the wind of change was blowing across Africa, when the destiny of many sitting heads of state was at stake, and when President Mitterrand had made this famous speech of La Boule and said Africa must democratize, we heard President Paul Biya said he was a suis parmi les meilleurs élèves. He is a creation of France.
Is it bad to have mentors? Mentorship
that's exactly,
is it bad?
I am saying, did I say anything is wrong about it? I'm saying what they said is true. What is odd is giving the impression that there's some holy guys running the affairs in Cameroon and some evil guys called the international community are coming to disturb their peace. And I'm telling you it is false, because the government in place is a creation of the international community. We know, of course, and so nobody has said it was false. Bemukong wrote in his book Prisoner Without a Crime and talked about the lawyer who came to defend Ernest Ouandi, who was sent out of the country, and by Ahijo, sent by the socialists of Francois Mitterrand. And Ernest Ouandi's UPC was, I think they still are, socialist. I'm talking about an alliance of the 1960s and 70s. That this thing is not new. We're making it sound like some evil guys have come with horns and tails and they want to come and destroy Cameroon. That is how the world functions. You're either in it or you are not in it. And if you benefit from it, suffer from it too.
Edward Keyeka.
I was going to say, I didn't finish, that lawyer was sent here by Mitterrand, and because of the treatment given to that lawyer, Mitterrand had a grudge against Ahijo, and when the time came, he implemented it and brought Biya to power.
In the report, Charles, please, Charles, you say it. In the report that we followed, that introduced this debate, you heard somebody saying it is thanks to the maturity, to the responsibility of Cameroonians that the attempts to destabilize the country is not happening. So, can we link that to the level of education?
I would not say we can link it to the level of education, because if you look at it, it's at the level of brainwashing. The level to which people have been moved to believe in certain norms is different from the educational setup. We train children in school, but when they enter the society, their IQ, their way or their mentality is a little different from the norms that are set up. I bet you what you learn in school is not what you meet in the society.
But you apply what you learn in school to survive in society. Well, the question I'm asking is this. From that report, it said that if Cameroonians did not respond to the call to destabilize their own country, it's because they are mature enough. It's because they are responsible. Can we say it's because they have been well educated? No, that. Let me just give you as an.
I think that.
Okay.
I think that Cameroonians have been well educated, and that is why 22nd of September failed for 2 reasons. One.
Did it fail?
It failed.
How did it fail?
Can I explain myself? Because when you said that
go ahead,
is a product of France,
you're not explaining to him. Go ahead.
You have the right to your opinions. For 2 reasons. One, strategic timing error. Cameroonians were very much informed that September 21 was International Peace Day. And the next day, you can't tell them to become hooligans. Excuse me.
No.
Excuse me.
Charles, I can't let you say that.
Excuse me. When you said President Biya was installed on power
this is very serious.
by France, I didn't oppose you.
Let me tell you.
So if you want to talk, I leave the stage and you talk.
This is very serious.
But I believe that you should allow me express my own point of view.
Let him end.
In pursuit of academics, and academics is truth.
Can I complete my statement?
There are lots of young people
Can I finish my statement?
Look up to you.
Can I finish my statement?
That a protest is violence.
Protest
is an expression. It's not violent.
Let him finish. Yes, Charles.
I just wanted that clear.
I did not kick your idea of being installed.
It wasn't a favor.
By the way, there was a constitutional mechanism for that.
It wasn't a favor. But I cannot let you say that a demonstration is violent.
Let Charles finish.
On Peace Day, there are demonstrations.
Let Charles finish.
It was a strategic timing blunder. And that 22nd of September, back in 2017, was a day that a controversial march took place in the Northwest. And some people declared independence. Northwest and Southwest. Mm-hmm. And that is when people said that, okay, look, maybe that episode of 2017 wants to be repeated. The second,
that's a lot of conjecture.
The second reason why it failed, these people who organized the protest, plus their surrogates, have been consistently inconsistent. These people told us months ago that President Biya has died, only for them to come and tell us that, let us chase him from power. Cameroonians know that there is no mortuary at Etude. So was it Biya's corpse they were going to take from the Unity Palace?
Okay.
Yes, I have a point which I want to raise.
Yes.
The question you asked was, why did the march fail? Is it because of Cameroonians' level of education? I want to say Cameroon is a particular country in Africa with a particular history. First of all, Cameroon was never a colony. And this, we won't repeat it enough, Cameroon was never a colony.
Absolutely.
It's not to say that Cameroonians didn't live under similar conditions as other Africans that were colonized. No, we lived colonial experience. But the difference was that under the mandate system, Cameroonians had the right of petition.
Okay.
And the right of petition forced Cameroonian nationals to organize themselves to collect money, first of all, because it wasn't the colonial powers that were going to pay for the trips for the petitioners to go to the United Nations. Mm-hmm. So farmers gave 100, 200, 300 francs to collect money to go and petition. And second of all, it permitted Cameroonians to know each other and to mix.
Okay.
Why am I raising this point? I'm raising this point because Cameroon with Algeria are the only 2 francophone countries that fought for their independence.
Okay.
And someone like Francis Xavier,
part of Cameroon,
Verschaff,
part of Cameroon today.
Well,
that's true.
Part of Cameroon today.
That's correct.
That's true. François Xavier Verschaff estimates that there were from 100 to 400,000 deaths during that period. It means that Cameroonians know what war is. They know what war is.
Exactly.
And Cameroonians have a spirit of independence that was inherited from the fact that they weren't a colony, from the fact that they had to organize themselves,
a German protectorate,
and from the fact that they know what 400,000 deaths mean.
Thank you.
I don't know how the fact of not being a colony, just a trust territory or a mandate,
plus a protectorate.
I think that's a question I can answer.
Cameroon is not alone in that category. There was Namibia, Southwest Africa.
Okay.
There was Togoland.
Thank you for thank you for adding to the list.
And Namibia
I explained how it comes
for
to play.
Independence. Namibia fought for its independence. I don't know whether you mean that.
I said I said amongst those who had French.
Okay. That's clarified.
But what I mean is that it comes to play in the mentality that the people have.
That's clarified.
Cameroonians are independent.
Yes,
they have an independent mentality vis-à-vis the international community. So it's difficult to destabilize Cameroonians who have a spirit of defiance vis-à-vis international powers that want to tell them what to do. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about.
Don't have grievances. It takes the international community to come and destabilize.
Now let me
when Cameroonians express themselves over their grievances, it is the international community that is coming to destabilize Cameroon. It sounds very silly.
The people signing the communiques are not Cameroonians.
To have
is Mr.
people
Armstrong,
of a certain standing,
the lawyer, is he a Cameroonian?
Robert Amsterdam, the Cameroonians. These are the same people who wrote the letters for
when Namibia fought for its independence,
Cameroonians are very much aware that this country will not become like Bani Wali or Misrata in Libya. That is a point you have to take.
Now that is fear-mongering.
Are
you saying that anywhere people rise up to ask for what is rightfully theirs, it's the international community that is trying to destabilize the country? Is that what we are saying?
You're out of topic.
I am out of topic?
I'm sorry.
It's a topic that was coined.
That's not the
topic that was coined. Isn't that the topic?
No, it's the role of the international community.
Where is destabilization coming from? Are we talking about Cameroonians rising up to ask for the rights, or the international community?
Uprising. Yes, uprising is illegal.
Constitutional right, and there is no debate about that.
Absolutely.
Just that the constitutional mechanism in Cameroon does not operate like in the US. Let me just give you an example about the element of destabilization. You can't talk of... Excuse me.
Demonstrate the destabilization first.
Let me demonstrate
how was Cameroon going to be destabilized in a demonstration by Cameroonians?
You cannot, in 2018, in the heart of the worst crisis the nation has ever known, a division as it is today, as worse as it was in 2018, you go in for an election, and you come in 2020 when the atmosphere is already clear, and you say that, okay, let's hold a protest march.
Are you talking about march of a political blunder?
The
question we are here for is destabilization by the international community.
Please.
How does international community want to destabilize Cameroon through a protest by Cameroonians?
Let me tell you, when if a politician in this country, let me say John Frundi, Professor Maurice Kamto, Bello Buba Magari, if he stands for a protest march, and excuse me,
let him finish. When he finishes, I will give you the floor.
If a politician in this country calls for a protest march, and he's backed by the Lamido of Ngaoundere, the fund of Fonfuka, Ebune will listen. I will not pay attention to a letter backing a politician from Amsterdam.
Okay, that is said.
Washington.
Yes, that is said.
I have not heard how the international community is going to destabilize a country
through some movements.
When its citizens are expressing themselves, the points that were enumerated, are they not Cameroon or Cameroonian issues?
Okay. Now, we are going to, this is one other issue that we raise. You talked about the UN coming in to solve some problems. And on reading, I came across Lord Acheson's plan, Uniting for Peace Resolution 377 of the United Nations, that they could, if at least one of the 5 permanent members use their veto powers not to make peace move, or they will use that to go around. Why is the United Nations not using such an avenue?
The United Nations Security Council is divided on the issue of Cameroon. They're divided on that issue.
How?
That's why there hasn't been an official meeting on Cameroon at the United Nations Security Council. What happened was a Farrier Formula meeting that happened a few months ago.
An informal meeting?
Which is an informal meeting that has no binding power. It means that the international community itself, which is referred to, is not united on this front. And that people, I think Cameroonians need to be mature enough to understand what is going on and whose interests at heart. And that is the heart of the issue. To come back to the United Nations Security Council, the people that are blocking Cameroonians, the discussion of Cameroon at the United Security Council are basically the French. Let's put it bluntly. The French and the African group. Ghana, South Africa, Tunisia, Algeria. There were non-permanent members of the Security Council. They systematically voted against a meeting on Cameroon. And the day that the French president was saying on French television, he was speaking to a Cameroonian activist, telling him how he gave orders to the Cameroonian regime, that same period, He was refusing a meeting on Cameroon in the United Nations Security Council.
Thank
so people need to have their eyes
thank you for that
open
clarification.
in these issues.
We're going to continue.
That our diplomacy is very effective.
We are going to continue. We have Bruno. Bruno is here. Franklin, we have Bruno who has come in with reactions that have come up from our viewers during this program. What reaction? Bruno, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Killian.
What are the reactions that you have?
We have reactions from the social media, right from our Facebook page where the program is streaming live. And Sharon Grand, she says the 2020-2021 school year will face a lot of challenges from health to security. It will be very hard for the school system to readjust its timetables, which will make learning come in 2 sessions as government proposed. Will the teachers handling this work be paid double for the work done? And Nicolas Azunui on our second topic says the UN and other bodies have to work to help parties in conflict make peace. They also have to hold and flourish peace. The UN Security Council has the primary responsibility for international peace and security. And Mary Killer agrees that the international community have a great role to play. If not, why can't the Cameroonian citizens solve the international crisis developing every year without any solutions? And Chiabi Proteus says the international community is not a friend of Cameroon. Looking up to the international community as a friend, helper, partner is disastrous. They are hypocrites. This same international community is responsible, either directly or indirectly, for the crisis in most countries and African countries in particular. Our leaders need a lot of wisdom and caution while dealing with international community. Prince Motapane says COVID-19 is a big impediment to the smooth functioning of a hitch-free academic year 2020. First of all, students and teachers are already traumatized with the effects of the COVID-19. This can only be resolved when the government or educational authorities organize virtual training sessions.
Okay,
and
the last one there. The last one.
Shortage will be a problem for the smooth functioning of this academic year.
Thank you very much, Bruno.
Thanks for having me.
And we want also to thank all of you who sent in those reactions, prompt reactions. Just to remind you that you can watch this program live on CRTV web Facebook. We are going to conclude the program with this last topic. Charles, briefly, what role should the international community play to make sure that we don't have this staged managed
I think what we need to understand as a concert of a nation is that there is no universally binding principle. So we should have that democracy is good for countries that have already been developed. Dictatorship is what develops a country. So countries seeking development should be dictatorial governments. Democracy should come after.
That is so hard. That's your opinion.
Yeah, yes. I want to think that it is but normal, natural law that when see people disputing, an elderly person could come in to broker peace.
Okay. That's well said from an elderly person.
Well, I think every single country should have its own interests at heart and should calculate when the international community can be useful and when it can be harmful. Because as much as the international community has helped to increase life expectancy in Africa, has helped to almost eradicate polio, the same international community has destabilized Libya, has destabilized the whole north of Africa.
Thank you, Franklin.
The international relations expert to tell viewers that
no, you give your opinion.
All countries try to influence other countries through the diplomatic missions and other means.
Okay.
That is why, for example, and credit to Cameroon's, President Biya's use of international community to keep hold on power in Cameroon. He said France was blocking a discussion of the Cameroon Security Council. Number two, even the United States
we are out of the discussion. We are out of the discussion. We are ending the program. We don't have time again on our side.
Because Russia is meddling into American politics, and you will see a crisis, post-industrial crisis this year.
Thank you for your opinions. Just to tell you, ladies and gentlemen,
you have said that there is
Charles,
no universal voice in American electoral system.
The debate is ended. Thank you very much, Charles Ibune, for coming. Thank you, Edward Keyaka, Principal CCSN Combo. Thank you very much, Paul Yombo, expert in international relations. Thank you very much, Franklin Sonny Bayon, media researcher, for being there for us. And we also want to thank you immensely, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Watch this program tomorrow at about 3 p.m. You can watch it anytime on CRTV Web, Facebook. Thanks once again.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.